What do you know? There's a new leader at the top of the table. Maybe Liverpool isn't so bad. I mean, they aren't first, so I guess by definition, they're certifiably good. But who have they played exactly? Look at their schedule. United? They aren't good by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know. It's too early to say either way. But there's a lot more than just Liverpool to talk about from the weekend, so we'll get to it all today on Coffee with a Kick. Hello and welcome back to Coffee with a Kick. I, of course, am Xander. That is, of course, Keegan. I'm mixing it up every time, whether or not to introduce ourselves when the episode starts. I should probably do it every time now that I'm thinking about it, but sometimes I don't think about it, so it doesn't happen. Anyway, we had our match day 6 go off without a fluke, totally without a fluke. Our picks were definitely really, really good for this match day. Any highlights you want to hit before we jump in? I mean, you're covering the first match anyway, so you could just roll right into it if you want.
Well, overall, I felt like these matches almost went our way and almost went the favorites' way. There were just several matches where it just, like, we're going to talk about Leicester-Arsenal. And that match, at one point, you thought Leicester might win it. And then a couple of things happened. Arsenal win it. But this first one, same deal. Newcastle, Man City. It's looking like Man City probably is going to take the victory. I don't like the penalty call. I'm going to be biased. But it seemed a little bit harsh of a decision, especially given the fact that Newcastle were playing extremely dirty the entire match, so much so that Pep is yelling at the fourth official. So ultimately a 1-1 draw, Newcastle's going to take that. But overall, it was a very physical match that I thought the ref didn't really have control of. Like giving yellow cards really quickly and then backing off on even worse fouls that the player might have committed. So it seemed like a pretty nervy game for Newcastle overall. They'll take the draw. I just felt like the referee could have done a better job of handling the match and really making sure it was soccer and not just American football out there.
Yeah, and there are a couple missed opportunities by Manchester City as well. 40th minute, Gvardiol should have fed Haaland on a breakaway that they had. If he had passed it over, Haaland was wide open. And then on the lead up to the penalty, who's 7 on City? Who is 7? Where are you? 7? There's no 7. What number looked like 7 then? Somebody on Manchester City on the near side kept Gordon onside, just barely. I don't know who it was. And then there was a very strong volley by Bernardo Silva in the 92nd minute that was kept out with a strong save. So City had their chances on top of it to put a win past Newcastle, but 'twas not to be so. So City is now.
The Silva volley was the one that'll haunt you. Because, perfectly timed half volley. Pope was just really, honestly, in the right place at the right time. He had the instincts for it.
Instincts and hand strength.
Yeah, Pope played extremely well. He's the reason why Newcastle drew, so kudos to him.
Maybe it was Ruben Diaz who kept him onside. I'm not sure. But we'll move on from that disappointment because all of us got it wrong if you include the favorites because we thought City would win. To one that some of us got right. Oh, you didn't get that one right. Uh-oh. You didn't get that one right because why would you pick Leicester over Arsenal? Why would you ever do that?
Yeah, I went 3-7. I was waiting for you to catch that.
Listen, you said it was a units play in the last episode, right? So you knew going in that this was a units play. It ended up working against you here. But Arsenal does end up taking out Leicester City. Like you said briefly, it was a nervy couple minutes there for Arsenal when it came back to being a draw in this 63rd minute with James Justin getting 2 goals. In the run of play there in the second half. For 20th minute for Gabriel Martinelli, I said that he had soft served that one into the net. It was a really unfortunate goal there for Leicester to allow because the goalkeeper was just caught flat-footed. Yeah, it was. I mean, Arsenal played better than Leicester. Leicester's had those few opportunities that they converted on. Like the 47th minute for Justin was a lucky deflection that went in. But the 64th minute was like there was no stopping that goal there in the 64th minute. But Arsenal comes back. They get their own. Well, it was lucky deflection because it ended up being considered an own goal for Ndidi. And then Kai Havertz really didn't know much about his goal since it kind of. I think it deflected off his chest. Is that how he scored it in the end? Just kind of battered off of him and was rendered onside by VAR, or confirmed onside by VAR. So Arsenal does take it 4-2. But Leicester gave it their all, and they just didn't quite close down the match like they would have liked. Obviously.
Yeah, this one you have at the very end just not good man marking.
Yeah.
Like Trossard is open on the back post, and he's just left there. And it was poor man marking on a cross that at that point in the game, you have to be man-to-man, guarding the body on body. And Leicester just fell asleep there. And then once they got that own goal, it was just kind of really Arsenal was just playing with the ball a little bit, not really looking to score again. And then, like you said, Havertz just really fortunate deflection, and it goes in. So I don't know. Leicester had a chance they actually had a chance, and I think it was the 81st or 82nd minute, where they went down. Nothing came of it because he whiffed the ball. But could have actually put a winner together there. But I did the units play. Once it was 2-2, I thought that something could happen. But it was not meant to be.
And I think that actually one of the overarching themes for sides that stumbled at the end is man marking. We'll get to some here. We've got two more blatant examples that we'll get to in a minute. But first, we go to Brentford versus West Ham, and obviously we have to start with a first-minute goal by Mbeumo because that's just how Brentford rolls these days. This one, however, was like very nice. It was one of my favorites, a nice hip swivel there by Mbeumo in the first minute. Puts Brentford up, and then West Ham just kind of, they don't get rattled. They stay in it. They pretty well... It pretty well staying. They have the vast majority of shots, only 3 on target. So it was one of those where they had chances, but not all of them were good. And their 54th minute goal really wasn't that well worked. I mean, I called it a pinball goal. It was just kind of bouncing all around there in the box, and Susek was eventually there to batter it in. What was this? There were 2 penalty shouts in the closing half. Later on for Brentford, but I didn't think any of them were really that convincing because neither of them were given. And Brentford, I think will take a draw here. I think both sides will. And it really felt like for Brentford, they sort of took their foot off the gas after the first-minute goal and allowed West Ham to work the way back into it, and then they weren't able to re-engage until late in the second half.
Yeah, not much to say about this one. Again, Brentford getting that. This time it was 36 seconds in, so not quite as quick as the other two, which were in the 22, 23 second range. So I think they're probably going to work on that in practice this week.
Yeah.
But Brentford had their chances to win this one. And again, I think it's one of those moments where psychologically they get up so early that they're almost playing defense, when I think Brentford is better off like having the counterattack play, feeling like they're playing behind all the time. But when you get those early goals, it's almost hurt them to get the early goal and not necessarily driven them to victory. Because, I mean, all 3 matches, they haven't walked away with 3 points. And if you score that early, you got to think you need to walk away with 3 points. Lucky to get a 1 point here, but they're going to figure it out eventually. Maybe match week 7, they'll get another first-minute goal. I don't know. I hope not, because then they might actually have a chance to win if they don't.
Yeah, and then we move on to one that was very exciting. And as far as picks, we both... No, you got this one. You got this one because you did pick a draw. You picked 2-2, so not a perfect pick. But a correct pick nonetheless. And then we move to Chelsea versus Brighton, a rather exciting game. How did you like it there?
An exciting first half.
Fair,
I will say
fair.
Second
That's a fair
half,
point.
nothing happened.
Literally.
So if you were someone who thought, oh, it's 4-2 at half, I'm going to take the over 7.5 goals, you would have been wrong. I did not do that, so kudos to me. But yeah, strange match for it to be one. Cole Palmer is probably the best finisher in the Premier League behind Erling Haaland. Like, just hitting on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I felt like Brighton had their spurts, but didn't look like they were the same Brighton team from last year that could really get on the attack, really act like they're going to score. I felt like outside of their 2 goals, there weren't really many chances. Like, nothing really felt like it was, this is going to be a goal. I don't know. Exciting first half. Not a ton of good play. I mean, obviously one of their goals was just possession error by the goalkeeper and defenders. But I don't know. This one was, again, it was exciting. It was interesting, but not something to write home about as far as one team was better than the other. It just kind of felt like Chelsea just converted more, but it was pretty even throughout the second half.
I don't know. I feel like that Cole Palmer free kick was something to write home about in the 31st minute. That was nice. You know what I mean? Really good. But yeah, it was a lot of the goals were off of, I count 3. Half of the goals were based off of defensive errors. I mean, the 21st minute goal for Chelsea, the first goal, the 7th minute goal, was a deflected clearance from Chelsea that just went straight up in the air, and Rudder beat everybody else to the ball when it came back down, even the goalkeeper. Then 22nd minute, it was a horrible giveaway that gave Chelsea their goal. And then 34th and 42nd minute were kind of the inverse of the same thing. A terrible giveaway for the Baliba goal, and then Cole Palmer's second was Brighton returning the favor. So, yeah, weird match. Certainly just watch the first half if you're going to watch it at all. Maybe just watch the free kick on the 31st minute. And then the 28th minute penalty was very confident from Cole Palmer, really hard struck, but, you know, it was a penalty. It was an obvious penalty, so it wasn't controversial, and he converted it with decent aplomb, I'll say. And then the second half, there was only one major opportunity, and it came in the 49th minute. So, like, it wasn't even long into the second half. There was a goal line clearance that for Brighton that kept it from being 5-2. Because other than that, not much else happened. And then we go to Everton versus Chelsea. Dwight McNeil coming back, and for once, Everton is on the opposite side of a come-from-behind victory. They get to win this one with the Dwight McNeil brace there in the 47th and 54th minutes, respectively. The first one was a terrible giveaway not terrible giveaway by Crystal Palace. It was just more of a great strike by McNeil from about 24, 25 yards out, it looked like. Really good strike there. And then on the 54th minute, it was a great ball in by Ashley Young that McNeil was able to get on the end of and put into the back of the net with a header. So Everton, you know, I've ragged on them for giving up those victories that they had in hand already, sort of like you were talking about with Brentford. But this time, they flipped the script on everybody.
Yeah, and one of those matches where Everton looked like a Premier League side, and just their ability to hang in the match. They knew exactly what they wanted to do coming out of the break, and clinical, scoring their only 2 shots on target. Yeah. McNeil looking really good in this one, and then Everton actually playing very good, sound defense on the back end of those 2 goals, because his second one came in the 54th minute. You still have to defend for 36-plus minutes. Yeah. And they actually did pretty well doing that. When in the past, as we know, they've slipped up. They've made mistakes. Everton's starting to figure it out. And I think if they can keep that goal-scoring acumen up, they could actually break into the top 10 in a few match weeks.
Wow. Bold prediction there for a team that's still only one bad week away from being back in the relegation zone. It's still pretty tight down there at the bottom. I mean, we're early in the season, so, you know, what does it even mean? But still true. And then we go from there to the City Ground. Nottingham hosts Fulham. What you got for this one? My note is not a lot. That's what I have for this one.
Yeah. I predicted a bit more goals, considering Fulham is decently good at attacking. Nottingham also has some good, solid players. But this one was, I would say it wasn't a snoozer. Like, it wasn't the worst to watch, but it was just a lot of in-the-field play. Like, the final thirds were not really touched a ton. Not a lot of shots on target. It was just kind of pure.
3 total is what I'm saying here. 3 total shots on target.
Yeah, it was really just like scheme play the entire time. It was not, we're just going to outpace you. We're going to outpower you. It was like, how can we find that one spot? Nope, missed it that time. So it was really a mental game. And Fulham comes out on top with the Jimenez penalty, which, I mean, tough on Nottingham to give up the penalty and that be the only goal in the match. But I thought it was a penalty, and Jimenez put it in nicely.
Yeah. I mean, he took his time running up to it for sure. But, he converted it in the end. And like I said, my note was not a lot to say about this one other than Fulham was able to secure the victory. And not every team has been able to do that this season, so good on them. They continue to, hey, listen, they're up in 6th right now. They are a no-joke team. So good on Fulham. Good on Anthony Robinson for getting man of the match. Always like to see the USA representing there.
They're a team that I think come January, it's going to be really tough for them to hang on to some of their stars. Because as you see these like mid-table teams, and Everton is one of them, Crystal Palace is usually one, Fulham, they get to January and you're kind of like, do we cash out on this player? Do we cash out on Robinson, who we could probably get 40 or 50 mil from because he's playing so well? So that'll be interesting to see where they're at in the table and whether they decide to cash out on some of their players and be okay with mid-table but making a lot of money. Just a thought.
It is something that we did notice in the offseason, that some of those teams were like, you know what, let's cash in the chips. We'll regroup. We'll be in the green by a lot. Looking at you, I believe it was Bournemouth, right? They sold Dominic Solanke. They didn't do anything in return.
Bournemouth and Brentford, both. Brentford sold Ivan Toney. Didn't really get a replacement.
Yeah, and you know what? It's worked out all right for both of them, to be fair. I think they're in 11th and 12th. That's fine. That's secure, and you made a lot of money off of it. So maybe not the most exciting thing, but these are also businesses, so, And then we'll go to Wolves and Liverpool won. All right. Next up is I will give it its due. My Wolves, they can't put together a full match, is what it comes down to. I mean, they kept Liverpool at an arm's length until late in the first half with the with the Konate goal there. Where that's when I was referencing that he was just totally. There were 2 or 3 Liverpool guys that were totally unmarked with that ball in from Diogo Jota. So he stabs us in the back there with putting in the assist, and then he draws a penalty in the second half to give another goal to Liverpool. So just really sticking it to us there, Diogo Jota. Aït-Nouri's goal was kind of scrappy. I mean, it wasn't a pretty goal. It came down to Strand Larsen's tenacity, is what I said here. But and then in the 72nd minute, we could have had another equalizer. 72nd minute, we had a little bit of a breakaway on the left-hand side of the pitch, and we had a guy totally unmarked on the right side. But whoever had the ball, I didn't catch the number. Whoever had the ball didn't pick his head up. If he shuffles that over, the goalkeeper was already committed to the left side. It would have been a tap-in for a draw. And that is disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah, my note for this one was Wolves look like a top 10 team. The results just haven't shown that yet.
Well, it's because we've been playing top 6 teams like the whole season so far, which we've talked about time and time again. Our beginning of the season schedule is rough.
Yeah, and honestly, that benefits them quite a bit because now they're going to be primed to here's the level we need to play at to win. Mm-hmm. So they've been playing at that level of the top 6. They're going to go into teams like Ipswich, Southampton, and they're just going to dominate them. And I think we're going to start to see Wolves also creep up the table to where I think them and Everton are going to start getting some victories. Doesn't look good for either team now, but give it 4 or 5 more weeks. I think both teams will be in the 11-12 spot.
Yeah, listen, your lips to God's ears, all right? That's 1 point out of 6 matches is certainly not a start that anybody would wish to have, with that 1 point coming against Nottingham Forest. Brentford, listen, Brentford's beatable. This will be a good test this next weekend. Brentford is a beatable team, mid-table, where we're kind of projecting them to be. So, let's see, is that home or away? It is away at Brentford. So, I'll take a point. Listen, I'll take a point out of that match at this point in the season. That wraps up the extended Saturday, moving to Sunday with Ipswich Town and Aston Villa. Your boy Liam Delap coming through for Ipswich Town in the clutch. Tell me about it.
Well, for my prediction, I hated it. I predicted 2-0 Aston Villa, but
yeah, same here.
Delap's second goal was juicy. Mm-hmm. Sends Diego Carlos the wrong way, left-footed across the goalie into the far post. I mean, so far this weekend showed me that a lot of City's players that we sold off are actually pretty good. We could probably use them right now. But that's a different point. Delap played really well, and Aston Villa didn't seem to have that killer instinct like a top 6 team should. Like they just kind of like let Ipswich stay in it. Watkins had a couple of shots that were off target that probably should have been on target. They had one chance in the, I think, 63rd, 64th minute around then where it's pretty much 2-on-1 with one defender and one goalie, and he can't get his feet right. Yeah. And he ends up just kicking it out. So it's things like that where you need to have that killer instinct. But Ipswich, I knew they would be a side that was going to be organized, that was going to figure it out. Hey, a draw versus Aston Villa at home, they will take that.
Certainly will take that. Aston Villa had the chance to win this one. Ipswich gave them those chances. I mean, the first goal was off of a horrid giveaway by Ipswich Town. And then the Ollie Watkins goal, though, that was that ball in from Leon Bailey was very nice. So, you're up 2-1 at Ipswich in your Aston Villa. You're right. You got to put your foot on their neck. You got to take them out. But you let them stick around, and Liam Delap goes coast to coast. No, sorry, that's my note for Mickey Van de Ven in the next one. He goes it alone was my note for this one.
Delap, he was not near the halfway line, but pretty close. And then he just took it the whole way and slotted it home.
And if no one's going to stop you, just keep on going. And then to this one, Manchester United is not in a great place right now. Okay, they're not in a great place. This is their second consecutive 3-0 loss at home to Liverpool and Tottenham. Liverpool was the first one. Tottenham was this one. And, it wasn't ever really that close. Tottenham felt like they were kind of in control the whole time because they got the first one was 3rd minute. This one, because of the red card, obviously. But Mickey Van de Ven goes straight up coast to coast. I mean, he picked that up about halfway between the box and the bottom of the circle and just drives it all the way down the field and slots it across for a Brennan Johnson tap in. Really good thing there. And then what did you think about the straight red there?
This is one of those moments where VAR should intervene because it is a high cleat. Mm-hmm. But in the replay, I think he's clearly slipping, which kind of contorts his body. I mean, he hits him with his heel.
Yeah. It's a bit of a mitigating factor. My guess is that it was just underneath their obvious error threshold, I guess. But still, for straight red in the 42nd minute of a 1-0 game, that's a big call to let go.
Yeah, I mean, that was the difference. Like, even though Tottenham was in charge and missed, Brennan Johnson, I think it was in the 13th minute, should have had a second one. But you still have 11 men. The entire game changes. I just think it wasn't a straight red. VAR should have intervened, said, hey, go take a look. At the very least, take a look. That way you can kind of see the slip, then determine whether it should stay.
Yeah.
But my other note for this one was Josh Zirkzee is not the finisher that you think he is. He had several chances where, he had one pass on a platter to him in the first half, and he should put it in, but he hits it right at the goalie. He has another one where he heads it and goes clearing away, probably into the second deck off of a header. Man U's got to figure out their striker, because if they can get Højlund up and running, it'll be a different game. But red card, harsh. Man U not looking good. Ten Hag probably should be sacked.
Yeah, it's looking like whatever agreement they came to last winter seems to have been a large-scale mistake at this point. Because even when you get down, you're only down 2-0. You've had some chances at goal. That 78th minute goal for Solanke, he was just unmarked. They just didn't mark him in the box, and he put in an easy header. This was the third instance of the man marking, just fundamental defensive maneuvers, that people are just forgetting. And for a team like Manchester United, you'd think that the level of expectation would be higher, for being at Manchester United, the vaunted Manchester United.
Ten Hag, in their program before the match, said that nothing less than 100% will be okay. And then if you look at the replay of Brennan Johnson's goal, Diogo Dalot literally just stops, quits marking at the top of the box. And then before he's even put the ball into the net, he's already raising his hand saying, my bad. So it's like that kind of effort is not going to get you any points. That's going to end. You're going to be in relegation zone if you continue that effort.
Here, the problem is he didn't specify. He should have said 100% effort rather than 100% accountability, because obviously he's taking the blame there. It's my fault. But
clearly,
we'd rather not have to worry about that part of it,
Yeah, clearly the players are not fully bought into Ten Hag's system, and he's not really fully bought into them. So I think this is kind of a marriage that probably should end sooner rather than later if Man U want to have a chance to salvage this season.
Yeah, and probably the sooner the better. It takes a while to turn these ships around for the Premier League clubs, So I wouldn't wait till winter to do this. You give them maybe until probably before the international break. If things don't make a marked improvement, to give you some time to maybe get somebody in to get some sort of change in strategy implemented during a bit of a break. So that's the mid-November break. We'll see. Maybe they can turn it around.
The rumor is that they may bring in Wayne Rooney as a caretaker manager.
Oh,
for the rest of the year, just because, kind of like they did with Solskjaer. Mm-hmm. He's a familiar face. He was a hero. Let's bring him in to lift some morale, see if it works out. If it doesn't, it's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
So don't be shocked if come November, Wayne Rooney is the caretaker manager of Man United.
Interesting. And then to our last match, which wasn't as interesting. It was fine. It was kind of a tale of two halves. Bournemouth hosted Southampton and took care of business. Southampton looked pretty good for the first, 15 minutes or so. But then you hit the 17th minute and Bournemouth caught them. Well, didn't really catch them sleeping, but certainly not unawares with a quick, it was a quick free kick, a quick restart that they took. Tavernier fed Evan Nilsson, and a very nice touch on his part, Evan Nilsson, to get that in. And then Southampton kind of collapsed for the next half hour until the end of the half. They looked horrid, not like the team that had started off the half. And Bournemouth took advantage with the Otara goal there through a forest of legs, is what I said. It wasn't a great goal, but it made it through to the back of the net. And then Semenyo.
Yeah, it was a shot, and he was just on side. It deflects off his foot and goes in.
Yeah. Okay, so Lewis Cook was the one who had taken the shot then.
Yeah, Lewis Cook thought he had a goal, and when you look back at the replay, it's like, a shoulder keeps Dango there on side.
Little Dango.
And after that, you could just feel it wasn't going to go Southampton's way.
Yeah, and then Semenyo danced at the top of the box and then racketed off a shot, far post. Really nice one there. And you go into half at that point, and Bournemouth almost gets another one before the half ends. And it feels like, it's already over. But Southampton comes out in the second half. Not too bad. They get a good, a good cross in for the Howard Bellis goal. And they sort of are back in it a little bit. They have a couple other chances. But, they won the second half. But Bournemouth was kind of playing conservatively in the second half. Just like, let's take the 3. We've got 3-0. We're still up 2-1 or 2 goals. So they kind of were able to coast through the second half without too much nervousness coming from Southampton's way. I mean, they only ended up with 3 shots on goal total, even though they had 60% possession by the end of it. So, yeah, not a great result for Southampton.
Yeah, Harwood Bellis, former Man City player. You like to see him getting a goal.
I'm sure you have a buyback clause in his contract too.
I don't know if I'd want him back, but yeah, we probably do.
Probably do. The lap looking better all the time, but Howard Bellis still has some work to do for Southampton. All right, and that brings us to the end of the match day that was 6, I guess. The end of what was match day 6 is a better way to say that. Any points of emphasis before we get out of here?
It was a match day to forget. I will say that. I'm ready to move on into the future.
Ready to move on in the future. Yeah. You know what? I mean, units-wise, I agree completely. You and I both broke even. Only just. Only barely. You went 3-7 and somehow still got 1.1 units. So if you bet $10 $1 a match, you made $1.10 back over the course of the match day. I made back $1.39. Favorites lost money, so we outdid the favorites in this one, continuing to extend our lead over them. And I cut into your lead by 0.29. So good job by me.
I'm back.
I'm gonna catch you eventually. All right, but that's the end of this episode. So before we come back for our predictions later this week, why don't you go ahead and grab your coffee, watch some soccer, and we'll see you on the other side. Ooh, spooky. It's almost October. It is October. Déjà.